Well, all I can say is give me a break that senior executives know about this defrauding Congress, but somehow, despite the fact that you're hiring lobbyists by the army full, you can't tell us until after the vote that there's been this defrauding going on. Give me a break. Mr. Miller, would you agree that your organization, on behalf of a part of the coal industry, is partially responsible for defrauding Congress in this context?
Mr. Inslee, the investigation, internal review done by Venable and overseen by former Attorney General Civiletti, found without question that we did not have any knowledge and did not in any way direct that fraudulent letters be done. The investigation further showed, however, that our reliance on Mr. Bonner's firm was misplaced. We relied on him for basically three reasons for our failure to act before the vote. Number one...
Let me just, for a moment, I'm just trying to get to kind of a yes or no and then allow an explanation at the end. Do you think that your organization was partially responsible for defrauding Congress in this context?
Fraudulent activity, no, sir. I do not believe
Do you think you're partially responsible for misleading Congress in this context?
I believe that our organization had an obligation, and now, based on 3 months of thinking about this issue every day, clearly we had a responsibility to draw a line at a certain point before the vote.
So the answer is yes. You were partially responsible for misleading Congress. Just say yes or no.
We are partially responsible for the failure for the affected members to not be notified.
Well, let me suggest that this really is in a bit of the tip of the iceberg, because I think you're responsible in a lot of other ways as well. I'm holding the talking points for ACE of phone calls that I'm told they're made, and it's about what you advise people to call and tell potential voters. Were you familiar with this text to be used in these phone calls?
Mr. Inslee, I don't have a copy of the particular item that you have. I'd be glad to take a look at it.
Well, it says, it talks about, this was from committee staff, I'll just read it to you. Because this is a whole nother issue of misleading Congress, frankly, that goes beyond even misidentifying who was calling. Because you paid an outfit to call and say this. Have the caller call a citizen and say, how much do you pay for electricity? What would you cut out of your budget if your utility bill went from X to parentheses double parentheses every month? Would you write a letter to help stop that from happening? Close quote. You hired an agency that was apparently calling citizens, and I'll hand this document to me. I'm sorry I don't have it for you right now. I'll just give you the whole document in a minute. But apparently you hired an agency to call people and effectively tell them that something was going on in Congress that had the potential of doubling their electricity, which is just wholly wrong and fraudulent. And this goes beyond simple a misidentification who's calling. It goes to a deeper issue as to what you're telling the citizens. And it's consistent with all of your other ads you're running and all of these newspapers trying to scare the bejesus out of citizens, thinking we're going to be doubling electrical bills as a result of Waxman-Markey. And this is a deeper defrauding of the people in Congress beyond the simple misidentification. And I would ask you to respond to that. I'm going to ask staff to give you this and ask Mr. Bonner to take a look at this script. And first, Mr. Bonner, tell me, is this an accurate depiction of the script that your callers used as part of this contract? He'll hand it to you in just a moment here. Is that basically the script, Mr. Bonner, that your callers worked off of when you called people?
No, it's not the script that we used.
Are you familiar with that document?
I'm sorry. Yes, it is. It is. I'm sorry. It is original talking points that we used in our training. When we do calls, Congressman, we don't read a script to anybody.
Okay, well, let me just get to the heart of this. This is a training document. You told your callers what to tell citizens. And in that document and in that training, you told them to tell the citizens that there was something going on, or potentially going on, that would end up doubling their electrical rates. Isn't that right?
Well, I'm reading it right now, Congressman. It says, what would happen if their utility bill doubled? So
Right,
ask
and it's
that
real
question.
clear that what you wanted to do and what this industry wanted to do is to scare the dickens out of voters, thinking that some bill was percolating back here that would double their electrical rates. Aren't I right?
What we wanted to do was inform citizens their electrical rates could go up.
You wanted to know them to think they were going to double. That's why you put it in your training document, isn't it?
We set what the document.
Why'd you put double in your training document if that's not what you wanted your people to say when they called?
The talking points supplied by ACE were what we used as the model to talk, or supplied by Hawthorne, were used as talking points to do that, to communicate what was going
Right, and what happened here is Hawthorne, after getting their instructions from the coal industry, wanted you to try to convince citizens that there was a potential their electrical rates were going to double as a result of some legislation back here. Now, isn't that what happened? And I really like to short circuit that. Isn't that what happened?
The talking points that we trained from does have the line in it, what would happen if their utility bill doubled.
Right, and that didn't come from a figment of your imagination.
No,
That
sir.
came from information from Hawthorne that got their information from Mr. Miller's organization. Isn't that your understanding?
Yes, well, my understanding is Hawthorne gave.
Thank
us
you.
this
Now, Mr. Miller, did your organization suggest to the Hawthorne organization that in their calls or in other information give to citizens that it would be discussed a potential doubling of people's electrical rates?
Never, sir. Okay.
So your testimony is the Hawthorne administration apparently imagined this. Is that what happened?
I don't believe so either, sir, and I would like to cite you to
Well, just if you can't help us, where did this doubling, whose idea was it to try to scare the citizens into believing there's doubling using your money?
I believe that came from Bonner internally, and I would cite you, sir, to the filing that the Hawthorne Group made with the Select Committee on August 27th. One of the attachments to it is a full-page document that was, under penalty of perjury, what the Hawthorne Group says that they delivered to Bonner and Associates to develop their
Okay,
work.
so you believe Bonner and Associates came up with this doubling using your money, but apparently you didn't have enough good quality control on what you were trying to scare the citizens about to know that you were spending millions of dollars to try to convince the American public that there was a potential to double electrical rates. Isn't that what happened?
We have never, in the debate about the Waxman-Markey bill, ever intimated directly, indirectly, that there would be a doubling of rates.
You remind me of the guy who hired a hitman and said, just take care of the problem. Don't tell me whether you're using a knife or a gun. That is wholly irresponsible on your part not to give them and confine the information they were giving to the public. Don't you agree? Don't you believe that was wholly irresponsible by your organization?
We provided to the Hawthorne Group a very detailed list of talking points and suggested activity. And Mr. Inslee, this is critically important. Our organization has never opposed the Waxman-Markey bill. And in the directions that we gave to Hawthorne to provide to Bonner, and for the Hawthorne Group to use with phone calls that they also oversaw, that we were seeking changes to the bill, particularly a limit on the price of emission allowances as they would be sold in order to hold down the price of electricity. We have never opposed the Waxman-Markey bill. We were seeking changes to it, and the record, I think, very clearly shows that in regards to our filings before this committee.